Patrick Leo. So I don't know, Jeannie, Jean, who are you gonna present?
La Jolla, Patrick La Jolla.
Who I was presenting.
The same person.
Okay, fabulous. Great minds,
Oh my God.
convivial
Steve-
minds, thinking same direction. Go for it.
Steve, do
Not-
you
not
want to
allowed
wait
to it.
until you're on island? Are you going to be here Memorial Day weekend?
No, we're coming about the 4th, I think, Ellen, is that right? 4th or 5th?
Okay, well, why you two
June
decide who wants
5th.
to go?
Huh?
Jean, are you handing it over to Steve?
Or vice versa, I don't care.
Why don't you do it almost together? Like Steve
Right.
do something and then you can add, and why don't you just do it in tandem kind of stuff?
That's a good idea.
Why not?
Background and ah.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to say is that I don't know if everybody's seen the video, but the video of, Patrick Lyola, it's a hard name for me to pronounce. He was killed on April 4th in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and it really made national headlines. So if you haven't seen it, you can look at it. And on if you Google his name and you'll get Wikipedia and other things, they actually have the whole video of him being shot. It's so awful to watch, just the worst thing in the world, because you see exactly what happened. And it's good to watch it, but it's very.
It happened in 90 seconds from start to finish.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead, Jean? And I'll just back you up here. Jean,
Oh,
you want to go
well,
ahead?
I was going to start with who he was a little bit before. So shall I do that? And
Yeah, sure.
then we can add to each other's stuff.
Okay.
He was born in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 1996. The first of 6 children belonging to Peter and Dorcas La Jolla. The Great War of Africa began a year after his birth. They estimate 3.8 million people died in that war. His family applied to leave the Congo and were resettled in a refugee camp in 2003 when Patrick was 7. They lived there for 11 years. Then in 2014, they were offered the chance to come to Michigan, and they were promised war will be over, your family will be safe, the things you say, right? They accepted the offer. His mom took a job in a laundromat. His dad took a job in a nursing home, helping the disabled and elderly. Patrick, being 18, went to work for a manufacturing plant making auto parts. And he also worked in a turkey farm and an appliance store. And one of his colleagues at the appliance store said he didn't love his job, but he was intent on focusing on his work and only talked during lunch hour. He loved music, he loved dancing. He often taught the traditional dances of the Congo in the various clubs that sprang up to help the people from the Congo feel comfortable. And even Americans who were there said that they found the dances peaceful and joyful experiences. They couldn't understand the language, but they loved it. He was also part of a small Methodist church along with his family, and his minister extolled him as somebody who came regularly and contributed to that community by his presence and his joyfulness and his determination to provide both for his family of origin as well as for they don't say who his girlfriend, maybe you got that, Steve, who his girlfriend was, and the mother of their 2 children. He had 2 daughters at the time he died, but he was very determined to be a presence in their life, having grown up in a war-torn country and living in a refugee camp and coming here. He really wanted to be there for his children. And that just about stops me.
He was a real person. I think it's important to realize he was not a saint. He had a lot of troubles adjusting. I think he was often drunk. He had 8 misdemeanor charges to which he pleaded guilty, and he didn't show up for a court hearing, and he had a domestic violence charge. When the mother of one of his children said he punched her in the face and slammed her head into a car after she refused to let him take her new bed sheets. So, and he had his one felony conviction was for aggravated drunken driving after he crashed on a highway in the snow. So, he was a person. He had his wonderful sides, his not so wonderful sides. You have to look at him in the round, and he had no responsibility for what happened at all. I mean, if you look at this video, it's unbelievable, unbelievable. Let me just give you a little bit about this. Too many pieces of paper here. The whole thing takes place, as Gene said, in 3 minutes. Yeah, there's a video in which the officer Schur, Schurr, is driving alone his patrol vehicle into a home's driveway to turn around and follow Lyola's vehicle through a few residential blocks. He was something wrong with his license plate. Lyola's family reported the Patrick was experiencing issues with the vehicle he was driving and had already pulled over. The Grand Rapids Police Department reported that Lyola was pulled over near Greek Street and Nelson Avenue in a traffic stop for an alleged unregistered license plate. In a video recorded during the incident, and here's what happened. Lyola exits his sedan as Schur shouts at him to remain in the vehicle, while Lyola asks the officer, "What did I do wrong?" Lyola appears confused as the officer asks him for his driver's license. Lyola facing the open door of his vehicle for about 30 seconds, but does not enter. Lyola then begins to walk away toward the hood of the vehicle, and Schur grabs him by the arm in an unsuccessful attempt to detain him. Lyola is shrugging off the officer's grab. Lyola is then seen running as the officer calls for backup and runs after him. A scuffle ensues. Schur tells Lyola, "Stop resisting," and Lyola replies saying, "Okay," as his hands are behind his back. Schur then pulls out his laser gun and aims it at Lyola. He pushes it away from his body. With the officer missing twice with the taser, the two can be seen grasping the weapon during the incident. By the way, police have issued directives that you don't pull the taser at such short range. Lyola was attempting to push the taser gun to the ground, away from himself. During the scuffle, Lyola can be heard asking Schur, "Stop what you are doing, please," while the passenger in his car can be heard telling the officer, "Stop, you don't have to do all that, you can talk to him." About 8:11 Eastern Standard Time, Schur then drew his service weapon and pressed it to the back of Lyola's head, while the officer pinned him to the ground. With the officer being heard yelling, "Drop the taser," and discharging his gun into the back of Lyola's head. Chief Winstrom confirmed that the gunshot wound inflicted upon Lyola was in the back of the head. Lyola had no weapons on his person, and the police body camera was deactivated during the incident. But fortunately, they had a bystander who took the video. Otherwise, we wouldn't know anything about this. We wouldn't hear anything about it. Gene, you want to go on?
It's one of those that just feels so much, I mean, different than George Floyd, but so much like George Floyd in the sense of the brutality of this. To see him lying face down with the officer on top of him and then shooting him in the back of the head is just horrendous. And one of the comments I read was that whereas the Black community often responds to Black killing by police, the immigrant community was terribly, and I honestly didn't look up how many other immigrants have suffered such police violence, but they said they were really horrified that they did not expect this. It really came to them in a shocking way. Breonna Taylor's mother came almost immediately. Benjamin Crumb is representing the family. uh, his main point is why, if every day we're saying the Russians should not be killing
Yeah,
citizens in the Ukraine, why on earth are we not doing something more about the killing of people in this country by the police? And his mother was quoted as saying, "We look to the police to protect us, not to kill us." Um, I learned so much more about what Michigan is happening. They have tried numerous, since George Floyd's death, they have introduced numerous bills into the legislature to try to change police practices. Not one of those bills have passed. There is a man who was quickly on the scene and took charge before the state police took charge. They're now the ones investigating the shooting and have not come forward with a report yet. But there is a man who's been appointed to be the interface and look over policing practices, in Grand Rapids, but there has not really been any change, in policing practices, and there's a long history. And I just want to note, I thought it in this month, in Minnesota, the report just came out that it's been decades of racist practices. And I suspect that will come out in Michigan, but I found that very discouraging, and I didn't want to leave it on that discouraging note, but lots of people are protesting, but our work remains cut out for us. Clearly it struck you too, Steve, in a big way. And
yeah.
This was a real person, as you said, both, with all our sides, right?
The thing that really gets me is that his family, I mean, this kid, he's a kid. He spent 11 years in a refugee camp. He had to leave his country. Malawi is a different country than the Congo. He had to come to America, which is like a different world. And there he was, and his family brought him here to escape the violence. And I can't help thinking about the tragedy. I mean, it's unbelievable. And also, I was thinking, when you look at the officer was kind of an interesting guy. Sure, he was, sort of an all-American kid. He was a national pole vault champion. He cleared 17 feet, which was, when I was growing up, was a world record, and he was like Mr. Clean Cut. And he went to Kenya. This is really ironic. He went to Kenya with a Christian mission, to help the poor Kenyans. And he married his high school sweetheart there when he was 22, she was 22. And there are pictures showing the little African children happily celebrating the wedding of Officer Schur. And his colleagues said that, he was tenacious and he had a snap temper. That was the thing about him. When he didn't get what he wanted, he got really angry. And I think that's what happened here. And the Grand Rapids police, in separate incidents 5 years ago, police officers trained their weapons at 5 unarmed black preteen and teenage boys and handcuffed an 11-year-old black girl in a case of mistaken identity. A traffic study released that year showed that black motorists in Grand Rapids were twice as likely to be pulled over as white drivers. And Robert Womack, a county commissioner, said, we talked to them, the brass. They have like cotton in their ears or bubble gum or something. They do not listen. Grand Rapids is also the childhood home of Breonna Taylor. And they show you pictures of the march, a protest march that took place after Patrick's death. And they show you passing a street named after Breonna Taylor. I can't help thinking also about Marcus Adams, and who's, who is, what can I say? I mean, compared to this officer, it's another story, another kind of human being. So maybe this is the point where we should
Say his name.
Say his name.
Well, do we have the correct pronunciation of his name? Does anyone have that?
I looked it up and I couldn't find it. I looked it up on Google just, before the meeting. I think it's Lyola, but I'm beyond that. I can't be sure.
My friends thought, we looked it up too, and we thought it was Lyola, but I don't know. I don't know for sure.
How is
know.
it? Can you spell it?
Lyoya.
L-Y-O-Y-A.
Y.
Oya.
Lyoya.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Lyoya.
Could
I
be
mean-
yo-yo. Maybe you don't pronounce the L. Yeah.
Lyoya.
Okay,
Let's,
well,
well, do the best we can here.
can we take 9 minutes and 29 seconds in consideration of his life, please?
Please.
I'll time it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Come on.
Okay. Can everyone join us in saying the name of Patrick Lyola? His
Patrick.
name,
Patrick Lyola.
Lyola.
please say his name.
Patrick
Lyola.
Lola.
Please say
Patrick
his name.
Patrick,
Patrick
Leola.
Lyola.
It's never gonna fucking end. Sorry. Um,
Thank you all.